long did it take for this to spread up to the Scandinavian region and these kings that slowly came up?
About 600 plus years.
About 600 years. Okay, I see. Okay, it's very interesting. And
I mean, to a large extent, we're guessing because
of course
we only have got two places where we know they stopped because they actually, there are archaeological records that they wrote down.
Okay, and these are...
One of them being Troy, and the other one being somewhere in North Germany. There's a little sort of stone which is now in the museum in Aberdeen, I think it is. And those are the only two places that we've actually got any archaeological evidence, if you like, for the Kassites having got that far.
Mm-hmm. Okay. That's really interesting. And again, you were saying that, just to clarify this, the reason for their migration, so to speak, this was mainly because of disease and lack of falling of crops, or was there some kind of catastrophe? What do you think?
No, it was as far as I think it was simply a hemorrhagic plague, which of course would have played havoc with the population.
Mm.
And so they had the people that they regarded as being responsible for it, in other words, their kings, because they were the god kings, had to move out. And so they would have taken, all their servants, and they'd have taken food on the hoof, like goats and so on. They'd have had their wheeled chariots with their ponies or horses, and they'd have taken off with them. But by the time they got to Scandinavia, I mean, they were no longer Kassites. I mean, let's be clear about it. They would have intermarried on the way. They'd have had cultural acclimatization, all these other sorts of things that go on.
Yes.
So that by the time they got to Scandinavia, they were... all their previous history would have been sort of oral mythology.
That's really interesting. So they were, we can possibly say that they in some fashion were expelled from their homeland, and they went on an exodus, as it were.
Effectively, yes.
Really interesting. And this took a long time. Do you think that they had great knowledge, about science, farming, things like this, that they took with them?
They would certainly known about farming. They would have certainly known about animal husbandry. They had writing, certainly. They had the cuneiform script. So they were able to write things down, and they would certainly have known things like navigation by the stars and astronomy and that sort of thing. How much they knew, well, I don't know.
Because there are, for instance, I was talking with an kind of an alternative, I guess you can say, archaeologist a couple of months ago, I think it was now, and he's talked about their recent findings on Phoenician scripture, for instance, up here in Sweden, and this is possibly something that have been taken with some of these fellers up here, possibly, I don't know, but that could be that could be the case then, I guess.
Well, if you think about it, you think of the runic script, and then you look at it and compare it with cuneiform.
Mm-hmm.
And although it's not identical, it's very similar.
It is, actually, yeah.
Now, I'm not saying it meant the same thing, that the meanings of the various, lines and what have you were the same. But the fact that someone worked out the same type of script is, I would have thought, significant.
Absolutely, and this is a common held theory that it all goes back to one root language, if you will, that slowly has developed and obviously spread, and you have different versions of it basically throughout the world today, so
yep.
Absolutely, that's really interesting. How about this this line that you write about in your latest book about the Ulvungar dynasty? Maybe you can tell us about that.
I love that because, of course, I pronounce it Ulvungar, but yes, you're absolutely right, Ulvungar.
And
that would be the more correct. I mean, for example, I forget now. I can never remember which country it is in Scandinavia that you have one of the royal dynasties is called the Folkunga.
Folkunga, yeah, definitely. Folkunga dynasty.
Where's that?
I'm not sure, actually. I need to read up on that myself.
Oh, well, if you don't know, then I don't feel so bad. Okay, and there's also one called the Yngling dynasty, yes?
Say that again.
Yngling?
Yngling.
Y-N-G... Yngling, yep? England?
Yeah, Ynglingetten. Yeah, sure. Okay, I got you. Yeah.
Okay,
yes.
right. Now, that simply means the younger branch.
Yeah, it does.
Doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, the Folkunga and the Ulvungar are the same dynasty.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
They simply mean the folk of Ulf.
Yes.
Now, Ata Ulf, of course, was originally called Ulf. Okay? Ata simply means the father or the ancestor, Ulf. Just as, for example, Mustafa Kemal became Ataturk, father of the Turks.
Right.
So Ata Ulf simply means the father Ulf, or the ancestor Ulf, because they descend from him.
Okay, yeah.
Okay? So it's the dynasty of Ulf, if you like, or Ata Ulf and Maria, who become the Ulvungars. However, what one has to remember is that the Visigothic Empire extended right across Europe and into Britain and Scandinavia. And for example, the Mercian dynasty was Visigothic. And Uther, as he was known in Mercia, was actually king of Mercia before he became head of the Visigoths. And his sister married Alaric of the Visigoths. And probably, though I don't know definitely, but probably Ulf went with his sister to her wedding to Alaric. And then when Alaric decided to go and sack Rome, he thought it was too good an opportunity to miss to have a bit of plunder, so he went with him.
Okay.
And of course Alaric died, and all of a sudden he found himself head of the Visigoths as well as being king of Mercia.
So he controlled a large empire, as it were, at that point.
Enormous empire.
Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, one of the interesting things, and you get this, for example, in the Annals of Fulda, that the Normans, when they sort of came down as Viking raiders into France, they didn't think of themselves as Viking raiders. They were actually trying to take back the land that, as far as they were concerned, was theirs.
Okay.
And you actually get, in the Annals of Fulda, admission that, various Vikings sort of said, well, excuse me, you're supposed to be paying us taxes, we're your over-kings. And this Danegeld business was not so much sort of paying them off. It was a question of, well, what do we do? Because, yes, in fact, in some cases, the Annals of Fulda actually say that certain Vikings who were related to King Horik of Denmark, for example, owned not only benefices within what we would now call Germany, Frisia, but also actually had allodial lands, in other words, inherited lands there.
Okay.
So, all this business of the Vikings were terrible people who came down and sort of raped their way across Europe, not strictly true.
I see what you mean. It's an interesting point.
Because it was the Romans who'd pushed them out of their lands, and they were trying to get them back again.
Yeah, I see what you mean. So you're saying that there was, obviously huge conflicts going on between the Visigoths, as it were, and the Romans at the time, and battling for the land, battling for who gets to control the largest empire in the world, as it were.
Absolutely. And it went on, and this is the point, I make in my third book, The God Kings of Outremer. Eventually, they finish up controlling Scandinavia, England, Scotland, most of France, southern Italy, and eventually right into Outremer, which is, of course, Palestine, what the French call, or the Western Knights called Palestine, over the sea.
Okay.
And finished up going back, if you like, and conquering the very lands that the Romans, and the sort of center of the Roman Empire from which they'd been evicted X number of 100 years before.
Interesting. And when approximately are we in time here?
Well, I mean, the Kingdom of Jerusalem was sort of 1100 odd AD. And in fact, I mean, I got to about 1120, I think it is, with the sort of formation of the Kingdom of Jerusalem and the Knight Templars, and basically that's where I leave it.
Okay, now I see what you mean.
That's the apogee,
okay,
like of the Ulvungar dynasty.
Okay, now I see what you mean. So this is where very tied in. But I mean, this could be seen as the Roman